Welcome to Align to Your Design. I'm your host, Beth Davis. Isn't it time to wrap your business around your purpose and bring your greatest work to the world? Each week, join me as we explore various biometric tools such as human design and hand analysis and how to use them to fulfill your destiny and align to your design. We will reveal how to do the work you are designed to do rather than what you think you should do. Hey everyone, Beth Davis here. You are attending Align to Your Design. This is the podcast where I interview people I feel are living their design with gusto. And I hope it is an opportunity for you to more fully commit to your purpose. And if you are committed to your purpose, to take it to that next level of expression and fulfillment. Our guest today specializes in helping women entrepreneurs get visible. And visibility is absolutely necessary if you want to make any money and be successful. It is through our throat that we manifest. Therefore, every human being must find the appropriate platform to communicate. Now, for some of you, it'll be communicating worldwide. And for others of you, you're communicating to a very intimate niche. You might find your platform on Clubhouse or Twitter. And when things start to open up again, moving about whatever country you live in or moving about the world and speaking. Whatever it is you do, communication is required. And this requires you being seen and heard by others. So our wonderful guest today, Siddiqi Ray, is going to discuss with us this most important issue, which she and I have found comes up again and again and again for our clients. Siddiqi Ray is a groundbreaking visibility mentor who's developed her 30-year career as a professional photographer and master mentor to women. And she has created a program to support these changemaker women and business owners to master their visibility, which enables their success and increases their results in the world. Siddiqi is the founder and creator of the groundbreaking soul portrait process. For over 30 years, Siddiqi has worked with world-leading organizations and leaders, including, ready for this list, it is so impressive, the Mayo Clinic, Target, the Associated Press, the Navy SEALs, the Dalai Lama, who she has photographed at least 12 times, Nelson Mandela, Deepak Chopra, and the Kennedys to support their visibility and work in the world. Siddiqi was also awarded the Icon Award by the International Women's Economic Forum for her work with women community leaders. So please, let's give a warm welcome to our amazing guest today, Siddiqi Ray, and we're going to talk about visibility issues with a special emphasis on projectors in human design because they have special visibility issues not seen in the other types. So with that, I'm going to bring Siddiqi on. Siddiqi, welcome to our show.
Thank you for being here, Beth. It's such an honor. You're such an expert in human design and hand analysis. And it's just amazing how profoundly your work has impacted the trajectory of my life, really, and my career. So I'm so honored to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. The other thing I didn't mention is we're besties. We've been best friends now, 6 years? We've been friends for 6
years, yeah.
years. And our association has been such a beautiful exchange of energy. You helped me rehabilitate my body after a bunch of surgeries from cancer. And you also helped me rehabilitate my self-image because after all those surgeries, I was not feeling very attractive. I was feeling almost defeminized because I felt I had been mangled. I had been disfigured. Yeah. And
I'm sorry to laugh.
I know.
It sounds like you've been attacked by a lion.
Well, that's what it felt like. It did feel, it kind of looked like that too. It looked like a lion had been chomping on my chest. But you came to the rescue. And then I had the good fortune of working with you around your business and your design. So let's dive into visibility. And as we do on every Align to Your Design podcast, towards the end of our interview, I have asked you a question about your human design, and I will share that question that you have, and we'll look at your chart. for the audience. But let's start with what you mean by visibility. What does that mean to Siddiqi Ray?
Mm-hmm. Well, what it means to me, actually, as a 6'2", is that process of living my life as a 3 for the first part of my life, and being in hiding, and a lot of trial and error, and a lot of failures, and a lot of drama, and a lot of trauma, and then going up on the roof. And you met me like right at the end, right before I went on the roof, and then I was on the roof, and it was just observing women, observing our issues around our body image, our self-esteem, our inner critic, and having photographed thousands and thousands of women throughout my professional career as a photographer, I was able to sit on the roof and just observe how many gorgeous, talented, educated, brilliant women are not getting their message out in the world. They're not feeling significant enough to show themselves, to be of service. And so they're not making an impact. And from that perspective of the roof, I was like, wait a freaking minute. Something has to change about how we see ourselves and how we are willing to show ourselves to the world, stand up, speak up, so that we can be of service. And that's how I see visibility. It's an inside job. And ultimately, we turn ourselves out into the world to be of service.
So broadly, before we talk about projectors, what are the major visibility issues that you see for women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, the number one visibility issue is technology overwhelm. Just not being able to go live, not knowing how to go live, not knowing what they're going to say, not knowing if anybody's going to show up and care. So that's the number one. The second one is like the raging inner critic that editorializes oneself and gets us into perfectionism and procrastination and just paralyzes us. And then the vanity dilemma, like most of the women I work with are 40 plus, and we're getting older, and now we're seeing ourselves in this virtual world more than we ever have. And so we have this whole conversation in our head about how do I look younger? How do I look thinner? And the reality is nobody's waiting for us to look younger and thinner. We just need to get ourselves out there. So those are the three main issues: technology, inner critic, vanity.
I love that, how you've summarized that. Now projectors in human design they're 21% of the population. And projectors are very special in that their aura penetrates the other. They have this very penetrating understanding of other people. Mm-hmm. And what I see, though, is that they're often working as solopreneurs, which is not correct for their design. They're meant to be the advisors and guides to humanity and guide organizations to greater productivity and better results. So I imagine that you must encounter pretty serious visibility issues with the projectors that come into your world.
And I would say grave visibility issues, like they're working so hard against themselves.
Yeah. So will you say more about what the projector is really wanting and what's getting in their way with regards to visibility?
Mm-hmm. So there's 3 different kinds of visibility that I see and I'm talking about videos online, and it's right. We either educate, we entertain, or we inspire. It always falls into those. And projectors really want to inspire and entertain. But sometimes, just truth be told, they're not very entertaining. They're like, they tend to be very serious, introspective people. And so they're attracted and magnetized to the generators. This is what I see, to the generators like you and I, that we are out there, and we are glamorous, and we're very outspoken, and they want to be that, but they're working against themselves. They're working against their own energy flow and their design, because they're just not meant to be, out front and shiny and glamorous and articulate. And so they keep saying to themselves, like, what's wrong with me that I can't get myself out there and do my business? And that's the other thing, is that when I have projectors that come into my visibility Facebook challenges, they're so good at seeing and supporting and responding to everybody else. Like, they're the most amazing community builders.
Yeah.
And when they're in that role, they just really excel. But when you try to break down like business and business structure and what they're going to sell and clarity around that, it falls apart.
Yeah, that's very true. That's my experience as well, coaching projectors. And like you said, they're often comparing themselves to another type, which isn't helpful and isn't going to get them.
Compare and despair. Yeah, compare and despair to the generators that are out there like doing it. They're like, I want to be like that. And it's like, okay, there's something deeper to discuss, because that maybe not their path.
No, well, like I said, they need to lead organizations, and that's when they get that success, which for them is being acknowledged, right? And getting accolades for their guidance. And what happens is they either push for it and get rejected, or they pull back and just do nothing. And then they get very bitter. And so that bitterness becomes this overlay that really disguises the humor and the wisdom and the genius that projectors have. They're really dealing with that bitterness issue. Have you seen that in working with them? The bitterness?
I have. That is such a great example. So I have a client, and she has been with me a couple of years. In fact, I met her through you, and she is a projector. And I tried to get her on the path of the path of least resistance, which is, this visibility formula, and it just wasn't taking. And I was like, oh my God, I'm giving myself an epic fail with her. And finally I was like, what matters to you? And we dug deeper and we dug deeper. And it turns out that she was just really bitter and really angry. And I'm like, okay. And she loves rock and roll. And I'm like, so that's what you make a video about, just expressing your anger. And so she started this series of videos on how to express your anger. And the first one was like her just dancing to this really loud rock and roll music. And then the next one was her singing Lizzie Hale and talking about how angry she was at her ex-husband. And it was like, it just unlocked her genius, because I was like, you do you, boo. And she came up with this thing that I would have never even known was in her. And it was expressing the bitterness and making sense of it. And I was
I think I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about, because in a training we had, it was like 2016, 2017. She was in class and the theme came up with the group. I don't know if you were there that day. I don't think you were. It came up with the group how out of touch people were with their anger. So I just, apropos of nothing, took my arm and cleared everything off the table in front of me onto the floor. Glasses smashed, water flying, papers in the air. And I was like, oh, that just feels so much better, doesn't it? Now, can we move on, please, from this, nitpicking, bitter, blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, the reaction in the room. Like some people were, hallelujah. And other people were just completely freaked. And she said to me, recently, and this now I know where she's getting the support, right? She said to me recently, she said, I've had a breakthrough with that anger. Do you remember in class when you broke the glass and everyone freaked out? I said, how could I forget? Oh, she said, I realized then I was out of touch with my anger and I had to find a way to get to it. And I have. So good on you.
Well, it's just so brilliant when the projectors can let go of the compare and despair and thinking they need to be something other than they are. And, the thing about generators is that we can consistently be visible. Yeah. We can set a date in the calendar and say every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going live, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Projectors, they don't know where their energy is going to come from. They don't know what's going to inspire them. And so they're like sea anemone. When you get close to them, they just... Yeah. And when they unleash and really recognize the source of their anger and their bitterness, and they can turn towards that shadow side of themselves, because a lot of the work I do is around the shadow archetypes and really owning the voice of the shadow. And when they can listen to that voice, it's really trying to get them to say, you're not meant to be out there every day. You can't push yourself. You have to wait for that inspiration. Don't promise anybody that you're going to be there every Thursday doing a live. You can't. And when they finally just turn inward and really look at the gold that's there. You know, that a lot of them are alchemists. And so they're in this experimental process of owning their magic. And they've been trying to do it the way everybody else does. And it's just this divine experiment that they're meant to have with their visibility. And it's so creative. Like we have another one that came into a visibility challenge, and she's in your world, and she just recently graduated, and she just started dancing. And she wrote to me and she's like, I just want to dance. And I'm like, just dance. And so she turned on the video camera and just like twirl. And it was so inspiring to everybody to be in their bodies and to be inhabited. So projectors really need to feel their way into their own path with visibility, with business, with expression, and just allow themselves to be seen and to be celebrated, which is what I really try to do with projectors. They're like, God, I feel so seen. I feel so heard. I feel so nurtured. They just need to be acknowledged because they've been so, it just makes me want to cry how shut down these projectors have been, and they make themselves bad and wrong. And then it's this monumental hurdle to get them to just be themselves. And that's really the gift of their visibility.
Yeah. Oh, you have such a sweetheart.
Well, they might be 21% of the population, but they're almost 100% of my business.
Yeah. So you've got a soft spot for them.
I do.
What would you say about using one's design to get more visible? So we know for projectors, they're getting visible. You're absolutely right. Every projector I've worked with has had to find their way into a very unique creative process. It doesn't follow a formula, whereas we generators can watch what someone else is doing, check in with our authority and go, oh yeah, that'll work for me. Or that won't work for me. And if it does work, we try it and it works. And so we can get a lot out of just being in response to what other people are doing. But projectors have to be invited, or they get the invitations when they're in the frequency of their creativity. So I often say to the projector clients that I have, I say to them, be happily creative while you're waiting for invitations, but happily creative, not bitterly creative. There has to be no expectation. And trying to get a projector to let go of their expectations it's like trying to get a fresh bone away from a dog. Right, really. So what would you say about using design in general to get more visible? Because that's going to then lead right into your chart.
Yeah. Well, before I started to put together my visibility work and the visibility archetypes with human design, it was kind of like I was doing what everybody else is doing, which is trying to get as many people through and like mentor them. And I realized that inadvertently I had created a one size fits all cookie cutter approach, and that it actually didn't work. And so I was like, I'm going to have to take a step back and realize that these projectors, the projectors, the generators, the manifesting generators, they all need something different. And they all need to create their own blueprint, like their own foundation and architecture for how they're meant to be visible. And when we create that with them and for them, and we keep inviting them to go deeper and deeper, and I'm not just talking about projectors, I'm talking about anyone, to go deeper and deeper into, they're craving to be significant. They're craving to make a contribution. They're craving in their deepest heartfelt desires to make an impact. And we give them more and more permission to experiment and play. It's like this big visibility playground. Like, did this work? Well, try this. I found that they get there. We all get there eventually, but we have to kind of do it ass backwards. Everybody else is like, here's the program, here's the offering, go out in the world and sell yourselves. And for most of us women entrepreneurs, it doesn't work to sell ourselves. It's too much pressure. We're putting so much energy and emphasis and money and time into trying to figure out the way to do it. And there is no one right way.
No,
so
there
we have
isn't.
to literally be willing to experiment, all of us, and play around with it.
Absolutely. I to your point, there's an incredible book I'm reading called Sick in the Head by Judd Apatow. And he, of course, is a famous filmmaker now. He was a stand-up comedian, and it is a series of interviews with other famous comedians. And he started doing these interviews at 15. And what so strikes me about this book, and why I just think it's a recommended read to any person who wants to be more successful, is my big takeaway is every single person's creative process is different. That is the one takeaway from that. There's no one size fits all. Like what Jerry Seinfeld does is so different from what Chris Rock does, which is so different from what Jimmy Fallon does. And so much of it hinges, or Sarah Silverman, so much of it hinges on their childhood and their type and the way their energy moves. And so what's cracked me up reading this book is, yes, these masterful creators are learning from one another. Right? They're burnishing and polishing one another's work and giving some edits and feedbacks. And what if we tried this and what if we tried that? But ultimately, the individual has to figure out, am I a morning person or a night person? Do I like to write alone or in partnership? Do I like this? Do I like that? And every single person has this different way into their creativity. And I feel like that's what you're saying, right? That each person you work with really needs your support and permission to find their unique creative process and to stop being in the compare and despair.
Well, I think what gets lost in the translation of, I want to have a business, I need to market myself so that I get clients, so that I get money, is that when I really break it down with most of these women, yes, they want money. Yes, they want clients. But what they want more than anything is to be of service.
Yes.
And to make an impact in the world, even if it's to like 5, 10, 15, 20, 10,000, a million. They really just want to show up and shine their light in the world. And they lose that in other people's vision of fame and fortune and what's possible. And they lose the simplicity of how amazing it can be, how miraculous it can be when you just allow your own voice, your own presence to attract and magnetize people to you. You don't have to push to be visible. I'm not talking about becoming an influencer here or winning a popularity contest.
Right.
That's, go somewhere else and learn like the 5 things you need to do to shine on video, if that's what you want to do. What I'm talking about is deeply, deeply accepting your mission, deeply, deeply saying yes to your purpose, and really using the path and the journey of our lives to inform how and when and where we need to show up so that the people that we're meant to serve can find us. That's what visibility is. We have to first find ourselves.
Yes.
And then we need to allow ourselves to be seen, be heard, so that we can make that impact. And at the end of the day, do we want money? Absolutely. Do we need clients? Absolutely. But the thing that we really want is to help the people that are still stuck, 10 steps back on that journey that we have just been walking. That's what we really want.
You have a Facebook group, yes?
I do.
We'll give out the link to everyone for the show, but will you tell people what happens in your Facebook group and why they should come over there?
Yeah. So I have this free archetype quiz, and it helps you really see what your superpower is with your visibility and what your shadow side is. And so the women in that group, Women in Biz Getting Visible Together, are really practicing getting visible. Like, so the projector is dancing, or the other projector is, expressing her anger. And then there's one generator that is in fashion, and she dresses up as her characters and she speaks as her characters. It's just a safe space to practice and to practice inspiring and educating and informing. And so they take the archetype quiz, we come in, and I do mini series on, their archetypes and what it means to them. I channel for them. It's a playground for visibility.
It's great. So what we'll do is we'll give out that link to the quiz, and then once they do the quiz, they can find their way to the group. So we'll do that in the show notes. And all of you in our audience, you can please take the quiz. I've taken it. It's spot on, very accurate. And I love quizzes. Who doesn't love a quiz? to find out more. So let's talk about your design.
Yes.
Now, I asked the guests before the show, I ask every guest, what is one question you would like to explore with your design so we can focus our discussion? And your question I thought was so apropos and wonderful. How are you, Siddiqi, meant to be visible? So let's have a look at that, shall we?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. And I just realized, everyone, because I don't have sleeves on, my arms are appearing and disappearing on my green screen. I apologize for that. Now I know I've got to wear sleeves. Okay. All right. This is new, right? December 3rd, 1967, 9:03 a.m. Yes?
Do the math. 53. Yes.
All right. I know. You're older than me. Yeah. That's amazing. You are. Just slightly. Like you're year and a half older, not that much older. Okay.
Old lady.
Yeah, no, you're not an old lady. You're defying the whole aging process. All right. Visibility. Let's talk about visibility because you have very interesting design when it comes to visibility. So part of how we how we manifest is through the throat. And you can see you just have one gate off the throat. And that gate is looking for someone with the 48 to connect into, so that you have the whole channel. This presents you with some wonderful gifts and some incredible challenges. Because your throat chakra is undefined, you're not really sure what to talk about most of the time. How would you know? Like, what is my message? What am I supposed to say? So that's not a good question for you to ask ever, because it'll just lead you down a depressing rabbit hole and lead to melancholy and possibly depression. What that undefined throat is good for is helping determine the voices of others. So people that have an open or undefined throat are genius at finding the voice in another. So one thing for you that's so important in your work is that you have a partner when you're doing videos, when you're doing things, when you're visible. Like this is very good because you have someone to play off of and someone to draw you out and streamline what you want to say. I would recommend to you, when you're in your Facebook group and when you are doing your work, bring on someone into the hot seat. Or even bring on someone that's like your occasional sidekick. You could have an arsenal of sidekicks. You could have 3, 4, 5 people who are specialists that you enjoy, that you bring on, and your audience kind of knows, like, oh, it's a show with Siddiqi and so and so. And then you could rotate that with the hot seats, because what this does for you is it activates this capacity in you, because whatever's going on in their throat, you click into easily. And you're able to help them find their voice in real time, which makes every conversation you have a demo of your genius. The one channel you have, gate 16, is enthusiasm. And it is and it is skills. It is skills, it is talent. It is a voice that knows the score and can very quickly lay down the truth of what is going on. So that is the essence of your communication, is what's the truth in this moment. And when you bring on some additional person in a partnership dynamic, you really excel. You really excel. And that's why you had to customize your work, because this isn't about I look at charts where I have said to people, oh my goodness, you need a group program with thousands of people in it. That would be great for your personality. The nature of who you are is so detailed and so precise and so highly meticulous that you're really well served having a boutique type business where, your opening package price is what, $5,000 to $7,000. You start there and go up from there. And then you might want to include, and I think you've done this in the past, for your high level clients, have a retreat built in or two. Have some retreats.
Yeah, we actually have one next weekend.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Where the clients themselves can meet other like-minded people that have gone through this process with you, because then they have a shared language. So that's the first thing with the throat. Now, in terms of managing, I want to talk about managing your energy, because although you're a generator and you have 3 out of the 4 motors, you are prone to burnout in a very particular way, which you know, because you're not meant to be sick or injured or burnt out, but you've certainly had your matches in the ring with the bull, right? You've been the matador who survived many a bullfight. And part of this is because, yes, you have the undefined throat. So the not self says, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to say? You have an undefined G center, which is always looking for direction. Where should I go? What should I be doing? Who loves me? Also not good questions. What the undefined G center does is it lets you feel other people. It's great for actors because you can channel someone. You can channel their energy.
Yeah.
You have an undefined will, so you can't make promises. You can't stick to a rigid schedule. It's not your way. It's too formulaic and you fall apart. Because anyone with an undefined will is much more go with the flow person than the people with the defined will. I have a defined will. So I can put stuff in my calendar years in advance and know that I'm committed to it. Like, yeah, that's going to happen. I'm going to do that. But for you, it's too confining. So all this openness, if it's not handled properly, will take you down energetically. It will take you down energetically. And so in a sense, what gets in the way of Siddiqi's visibility isn't so much you're afraid of being visible. It isn't about that for you. It isn't about really how you look or how you sound, although you may have had issues with that. Those are more like smokescreen issues where there's a judgment. There could be a judgment, or maybe there was in the past. Similar to what your clients have dealt with, like, why can't I keep up? Why don't I know what I'm supposed to say? Why don't I know my direction? Why can't I make these commitments? Instead of, oh, I don't work that way. Siddiqi isn't wired to do that.
That's right.
We can talk in a minute about what you can do very, very well, but you are not designed to make promises. And then the other thing is you have an undefined spleen. So if you're not careful, you get really sick if you don't listen to those impulses. Now, this is all very much impacted by this 360 channel, which is called the mutation channel. And anyone that has the 360 is very prone to melancholy. We would call it now clinical depression. But your biggest challenge really is that when the melancholy comes, to not give it meaning. Because all it means is you're waiting. And your body actually gets sad waiting for something to happen, because you can't force the mutation. It's brought to you through the earth. So it's a matter of proper timing. So everything in your life has to be when you feel like it. If you feel like it. And it's got to feel satisfying to you. Furthermore, I mean, the way you're designed just completely goes against modern society. Now, you do have in your variable, you've got one left arrow in your environment sector. So what this then means is that you're very active in your environment. You're physically active and you like to keep busy and you always get a lot of things going on. And that's correct for you because you can sort your thoughts washing the dishes. You can sort your thoughts going on a trail run. The activity helps your mind kind of sift through things. The rest of the arrows in that variable are right, which means you have a diffuse, non-focused way of encountering the world where your eyeballs and your senses take in everything. You take in everything. You see all. You see all. And it's a passive process. It's not an active thing. It's passive. It just comes in and you just know things. So while you're waiting for the mutation, similar to these lovely projectors, the best thing for you is to focus on projects you've already started and finish them. And then this wonderful 59-6 channel, which is the sexuality channel. And it is about birthing things. So it's not just birthing children, which you could have if you wanted to. You could have had a lot of children at one point in your life, but you decided not to. And we're dealing with 59 I'm going to talk about what we're dealing with here. So we've got 59 over here in black in Jupiter, 59.6. We won't worry about this third number, but we've got 59.6. And then over here in your design Venus, we have 59.2. Oh, that explains a lot. I'll talk about that. and then, so 59 is the sex. It's the sex gate. It's sexual fire is what that is.
I have to tell that to my husband.
Yes.
It's in my design, babe. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, yeah, you'll have with the 59.6 energy is called the one night stand, which means you can have intimacy with someone and never see them again. Right. So it isn't like necessarily being promiscuous. It's just if love is there, it for however long you're able to be in it. It's no matter the conditions, which is a very special thing. Like you can overcome great difficulties for love is really what it's about. Like there's this tenacity with love. If you love somebody, there's really no mountain. Like that song goes, there's no mountain high enough. You're going to go over the mountain for this person. And that's what people feel in you. And it's in Jupiter, which means that in your work, what makes you prosperous is celebrating people's sensuality and their naturalness. Because line 6 is being natural. Line 6 is being one's true, authentic self. And gate 59 is in one's sexuality. So you have this capacity to activate that physical awareness in a person, or what we might call embodiment. You know, you've got a lot of focus on embodiment. So there's an embodiment piece. And then your Venus, your design Venus, which is your heart, is 59.2. And I also have 59.2 in my chart. And 59.2 is shyness. So although people would not describe us as shy, when it comes to love, we absolutely have to know that that person thinks we paint the moon and the stars in the sky. We have to know that our beloved thinks we're the best. And they have to draw us out, because if we don't feel like we're number one, the favorite, special, we're just like this. Get away from me. Like we have no time for it. Like you treat me like a queen or go away. Right. So people have probably accused you, as they've accused me, of saying, oh, you're unavailable, you're inaccessible, you're guarded, you're too in your masculine. It's like, no, I just don't trust you. And I don't trust most people because they're not worthy of my trust. So if you show yourself worthy, maybe the shield will come down, maybe not. So it's totally appropriate for you. Now, as it relates to work, you're going to draw in people who are also very guarded, and they need to be. Their guardedness isn't a problem. That's part of what you're teaching them. So for you, in terms of how you're meant to be visible, you're meant to bottom line this, you're meant to be visible, one, when you feel like it. When the mutation comes, it says, oh, go do a video, make a movie. Take some new headshots of yourself, whatever, however you want to be visible. But it's got to come from a very deep impulse down here in the 60. And the 60 is limitation. So I want you to start paying attention to where you feel limited in your life. Now, not in the past, but now, if anywhere. You might not feel that limited in many places, but there might be a few key areas where you're like, am I satisfied as a generator with this situation or not? The limitation is the mother of invention, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. So limitation is in our DNA to help us strip away everything that isn't essential. Some people have increase a lot in their design, right? So they're trying to deal with almost too much. They have too much to deal with, and they're learning how to handle all this stuff. But limitation is asking you to be inventive. So any place you ever feel limited is where the next breakthrough comes from for you. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's where it comes from. So So number one, you got to feel like it. Two, you have to pay attention to where you feel limited. And when you embrace that everybody's limited, we all have limits. I mean, the mind can be unlimited. Consciousness is unlimited. But our physical body has limits. And there are limits, right? There's limits to our energy. There's limits to how much generosity we have. There's limits on things. There needs to be limits. There's speed limits when we drive. There's a reason for limits. They're to protect us and to make sure that we don't burn through our resources. So you're learning how to embrace your own limitations and help your clients to recognize theirs. And love those limitations. Like judging one's age. I mean, how awful is that? Like there's nothing you can do about your age. Like you're alive. Be grateful. You could be dead.
Maybe and also the body image. Like
right, the body, because the body changes. But even that,
really hard time embracing that. Yep.
People need to embrace it. But the fact is they can do something about it too if they want to. I mean, they're not that limited. People are like, oh, but I feel fat. Then I'm like, well, lose the weight. Like, what's the big deal? Like, if you don't like something about yourself and you have the capacity to change it, freaking change it. It's really that simple. And also getting to a place where you decide, you know what? I like my body the way it is. I really do. I know society says I should look this way or be this way, but I feel really good this way. And that's the ultimate breakthrough. It's like the person really finding, if they want to be thinner, great. They want to accept their body as it is, great. But you help them really figure out really and truly that those limits are boundaries, that those limits are there to keep them safe and to make sure they don't overextend themselves. So number one, you need to be in the mood to put yourself out there. Number two, you need to embrace your own limitations. And then three, you're helping your clients see that their limits are boundaries.
It's so interesting that you say that. It makes so much sense to me. I have this retreat called Safe to Be Seen. And one of the major unknown problems of the women that I work with is that it doesn't occur to them to set boundaries online in their social media presence with their visibility. And then until they really define the parameters and the conditions under which they are willing to be visible, who they don't, like, let's go through your Facebook feed and let's filter out and block, the people that you're not meant to speak to, the people that do judge you and do shut you down. It's all about creating safety and creating boundaries with our own visibility, which is something that quite frankly doesn't occur to anybody. And I haven't heard anybody talking about, and it's so paramount to my work. My husband's like, Sid, you should just teach about intuition and boundaries. He's like, you're the queen of boundaries.
You're wonderful boundaries. I've learned so much from you about boundaries. Like, you've taught me how to fight clean if I'm really upset about something, right? You've taught me how to express myself in all sorts of situations, how to take time for myself to really get clear on what I'm wanting out of an interaction. You've taught me so much. Now, in your incarnation cross, we'll finish with that. You're a 6-2 profile, which comes from the lines after the sun and earth positions. Right? You can see it's a 6-2. And the 6-2, I call a spiritual teacher, comes down off the roof and teaches people the 2 energy, which is about marketing. It's about being mesmerizing. It's about being visible. It's about getting called out from your hermit cave and sharing the creativity you've been working on in private. And that's the 6-2. It's the same for you. You have to be called out. You're not designed to be visible all the time. It's not your way. And then the gates, people are coming to you for this 9 energy down here. This is what people feel in you. And that 9 energy is about focus, the ability to complete things, and the ability to see the necessary details. So you're going to have a very keen eye and a physical sense of what works and what doesn't. 16, right there, your voice, that's what grounds you, is your enthusiasm and your vocal skill. The detail in your communication, really. Yes, and then over here we have, on your design side, we have gate 64, in gate 63. And we're dealing with before completion and after completion with these two gates. And you're dealing a lot with doubt, with confusion, and you're helping other people work through their doubt and confusion. And really, the doubt and confusion, the lesson in doubt and confusion is just don't second guess yourself. If you feel you've made a correct decision, let it be. Move on. Right? That's the learning in that. These are also off the crown, these gates. And so they have a profound access to the environment around you, to what we could call cosmic or infinite intelligence. Any of the energy, the gates up on the head are actually drawing in inspiration from the cosmos. So you bring in all this spiritual wisdom, you ground it down to the essential details, and then you verbally are able to share with enthusiasm something that otherwise is abstract to people.
It's interesting that you say this. I call it practical intuition, but at the end, so the Confidently Visible Facebook challenge is 5 days long, and it's addressing the technology, the inner critic, the vanity dilemma, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, on the last day, the hot seats are me channeling for the women that have won, the prizes throughout the week. And I'm bringing in that divine inspiration and answering their visibility questions from that intuitive place. And I just got this 5-page email from this woman that was on the hot seat a couple of weeks ago. And she was like, I could not believe that you saw this part of me that is so hidden, and has been so lost, but is so essential to my expression and to my well-being. And she was just like, she said she literally fell off the chair during the channeling, and her friends were on the call, and they too were like, oh my God, how could she know that? And I think that that's one of my gifts, is that I enthusiastically see for people what's possible. And I practically can see the path for them to get to their soul's expression of who they really are with their visibility.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. But also when they're in their not self, I feel it like, nails on a chalkboard. Or I can hear the broken record and what they're saying. And I kind of don't have a lot of patience for it. When they're like, I'm like, there's no energy.
Blah,
in
blah,
what
blah,
you're
blah, blah,
blah, blah, blah. So I think I can help people rapidly move through these things because of my ability to see. And it's interesting to me because I found a way around the what do I say. When people come into the Facebook group, they're asked a series of questions. And I have this insane spreadsheet of 350 people answering these questions and them telling me exactly where they're stuck, exactly what they need. And I go to the spreadsheet before I do a Facebook Live, and I'm like, what did they say that they needed about technology? They said that they have a hard time going live. They said they feel paralyzed when they go to press the go button. And so I just speak directly to that. And so I'm just gathering the evidence of what they actually need. And then I'm speaking to that, which is so much easier than me trying to figure out what I need to say.
That's right.
I've MacGyvered it.
Yes, you have.
I love the way you're so inspiring, and you've given me so much permission. I actually have a video where I'm hiding under the covers and I'm talking about, I don't know if you've seen that one. It's quite depressing.
No, I haven't.
But it's fantastic because it's me 10 years ago, hiding under the covers and just being like, who's going to even want to listen to me in my journey? And then it's showing me, when I first put out my videos, I had 3 followers. And then it's just showing the magnitude of the number of videos that I put out there. And then the responses that I eventually got. And it's just a call to, my mission is really to help 10,000 women get visible online so that they can make the impact and share their gifts with the world. And this video is it separates the wheat from the chaff. People either look at it and they're like, God, that's so excruciatingly visible. I'm going away from this person's world. Or women email me all the time, like, oh my God, I'm just in tears. You just touched me. And you gave me the permission to do that. You were like, in the times that I was literally out in the desert in Joshua Tree, hiding out on the roof, you're like, you're going to come down, and all you need to do is share your journey and inspire people with your journey. That's all you have to do. And it just gave me such permission to let go of figuring out like the perfect program and how I'm going to sell it and how I'm going to market it. And it's like, I don't really. I'm like, here I am. This is what's possible. If you need some of this, come join me and I'll help you figure out what you need. And you gave me that, because those times when I was up on the roof, it was excruciating, waiting and waiting and waiting for that call and that inspiration. You know, part of me was like, I got to get it together already. And you were like, believing me, you're going to come off the roof. You're going to write that book. You're going to show up. It's going to be totally different. And you gave me permission to stay there for the long ass time I was there, you know, because I trusted your insight. I trusted your wisdom. And honestly, I would not be where I am in my life and where I am in my business without your mentorship. You are amazing.
Oh,
you're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, hon. Appreciate that. So any final words of wisdom for our audience today?
Well, if you haven't worked with Beth already, you need to work with Beth already. And if you've worked with Beth and you need to get those brilliant skills out in the world, whether you're a projector, generator, reflector, manifesting generator, and you need some support, come join the community. We'll help you. Take the quiz. It'll really help you see what you can tap into to be more visible and what's holding you back. And it would be my honor and my privilege to support your people, because they're all so amazing.
They are. We really have a sweet community, you and I.
You do.
We attract really loving, sweet people. Really
brilliant people. I call them overeducated Olivias.
Yes, they are. Get out of their heads, into their bodies. Well, thank you, Siddiqi. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. And thank you, everyone. This has been another episode of Align to Your Design. We will give you Siddiqi's link to the quiz. Be sure to join her Facebook group. Siddiqi, thank you again. We'd love to have you back on the show.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Align to Your Design. If you did, please grab my free report, Business by Design, at yourpurpose.com, and then join our Facebook group, Align to Your Design. See you next time.